ever gotten stuck before or know someone who has?
Yeah, you get stuck probably to here, but never been that deep, no. It's pretty easy because that mold is way up there at the top of the bend. Down here, there's no mold no more because that's already fed in, see? And then that's how one hunk gets down there, and then you gotta pound it through. But then ones that are hunks now today, this morning, they went and took all these hunks and threw them out. And now he took that one load to town. Now they're loading the second load. They're on the second load now.
Anyone who was driving by saw a lot of commotion out there. There were several fire departments, trucks, ambulance vehicles. People brought in their bobcats. Were you aware of what it was like as far as all of the organization to get you out?
Well, they wanted to change off. They wanted to change. Louisville Fire Department was there first, and they were going to change it 5 hours later and use the Plattsmouth Fire Department. And the Plattsmouth's the one that had that long crane, but it was a ladder. It was one of their fire trucks with a ladder. And they lifted me right out the top. They went clear up the top. And they took me down to the side, and I kept telling him, let me down, let me down. And he finally let me down. But he let me down right on the bed of the rescue squad. The rescue squad had to haul me to the helicopter because the helicopter couldn't get close enough, they said, to get close enough to the place. This driveway is probably a good quarter mile long. But oh, there was police there, and there was fire departments even on the road next to the half a mile away. There was a doctor that lives at Raven's Nest, half a mile, 3/4 mile away, and he happened to come by, and he stopped in and came up and shook my hand when I was in that barrel, and said, and he works here at Creighton. That's where the helicopter took me, to Creighton. I want to thank all the firemen and doctors, because it makes you wonder if you're going to get out of there sometimes.
You found a lot of comfort in those men who had, picked up and ran to your location. They didn't know what the situation would be, and the doctor driving home, and people that you know and that you talk to, and were you guys helping to keep each other calm? And because it was risky for them and scary for them as well. What'd you guys say to one another, and how did you keep focused but not wear yourself out? Because, you had to stay healthy in there as well.
Everybody introduced themselves, and I told them who I was and told them who my father-in-law was. My father-in-law used to sing at funerals and weddings, and they all pretty well know him because he's lived there 60 years or more. And they all come from Louisville, but yeah, it's a little scary after they try to get you out, and especially when they try to pull you in too, and you got to holler at them, tell them, oh, you can't pull no more. You got to get another sling underneath your leg to pull your leg out. It gets a little scary.
What would you say to other farmers as far as safety goes, or if they ever find themselves in a situation like this in the future?
You should never let the bin get clear full to the roof when you fill it in the fall. Never let it get peaked. We had this in clear to the roof, and we knew it was going to get moldy probably at the top. When we tried to unload it, it ain't our bin. It's a neighbor's bin. We tried to unload it, but we couldn't get the auger to run the right way. It would run backwards. And we done it 3 times, and we still couldn't get the thing to run. We finally figured out what was doing wrong, and we finally got it to run right. But you don't dare peak it. If you do, you want to unload it the very first 2 months, and then get it down until it's all level. If it's level, it won't do this, if it's dry. But it's got to be 14 and a half on corn.
So the filling of the grain bin could have prevented you from getting stuck because the auger was stuck and you had to deal with it.
If we wouldn't have filled it so full, yeah, definitely.
You knew that Sharon was probably asking about you and your kids and grandkids. Were you relaying any messages to them?
I didn't even have my phone on. The phone was in the truck.
Well, were you able to tell these rescuers, hey, tell them I'm okay, tell them?
No, we really weren't worried about the neighbors or whatever.
Your family,
yeah. They didn't know it was in there, so just my son knew it, so there was no use worrying anybody else. And you weren't going to get any worse. You know, as long as he wasn't gonna run the corn out. If he'd run the corn out, you'd get in worse, but he didn't, he quit running the corn out. And then he come up there and tried to lift me out, and he couldn't lift me either. So I told him to call them, and let me lift out with block and tackle. But it took them 5 hours, so he never would have got me out. He wouldn't have had help.
Are there safety precautions that are kind of passed from farmer to farmer, where you kind of tell people what happens if you get in too deep? You know, what's the steps of procedure?
You can sink quite a ways into corn, you know, up to here, and you know, as long as you keep walking, well, as long as nobody augers it out underneath you, why, you're all right. But if they auger it out underneath you, you can get in bad. But what happens is that mold slides down and gets up to you. Like this one guy, he scooped around me, and when he scooped that mold, he lifted it too high and it was just dust. Oh man, you can't stand that dust, not mold dust, unless you got a mask. And none of us had masks. Everybody had just a helmet, and everybody had a rope on him. Everybody thinks they gotta have a rope when they go in a bend, but I didn't have no rope ever, but until they got hooked onto the harness.
Those volunteers, they had, you know.
Gotta be, yeah.
They trained.
Aid, first aid.
They've trained for this.
Yeah.
This is a type of rescue that not many people are familiar with or
No,
run
it's
into.
something new every time. Yeah, he told me that this is a brand new deal. You're the first one to use it. When he pushed these things in all the way around here. First they bring all their plastic, and they're about this high in this square. And that's supposed to stop the corn. And they put them out further. And that stops the corn from sliding down, because this is clean corn. Whereas it way up there is hunks that they have to throw out. And that's because it's too full. That's cleared the roof. And that sticks to the roof. Kind of stays there. And the other gets away.
What was the first thing you said to Sharon?
They made it about 11:30 last night, and that's the first I got to see them when I was in the hospital. But I could see they'd feel worried. I wasn't worried. There was nothing to really worry about. You know, you ain't gonna get in. You ain't gonna get in the auger. No way. But now, unless they auger a lot out, and there's 5,000 bushel under you, so you're not gonna get down through it. But,
Remember what you said?
no.
How's your condition now? How are you doing? How do you feel?
I'm fine. It kind of raised my diabetes a little, just from worrying that she was going to not get out of there, you know, in time, because it was getting dark when we got out. It was 11:30, I think, when I got to the helicopter to let me off.
Anything else you'd like to add to the volunteers or anybody?
Thank them all for a million for all the help they done. Without them, you've never done it. Same way with the doctors, nurses. Oh, when you get to the hospital, they just they jump on you like you can't believe. Great.
Ma'am, how tough is it for you from your perspective?
Well, his son just kept calling and telling me how things were. It was a scare. But we would like to thank everyone that helped. The firemen, the rescue squad, Dr. Wagner who came by, and also everyone who was praying for him.
I got a grandson that's 10. He was there the whole time. He didn't go to bed at 9 o'clock like he's supposed to. He stayed there, watched to see if I got out. And normally he watches wrestling on Monday night, and he missed it that night.
How many more grain bins do you have left to do for this season?
I think I got 11, 10 or 11, something like that.
Are you going to approach those any differently?
No. We got 2 more bins another half-mile away, and they're not clear to the roof because they got a different roof. But they're up pretty high, so we're going to take a load out each one of those to make sure there's no mold that gets down in there. Main thing is you got to look before, you got to get the bin low enough that you can look in there. But you got the bottom door You can't hardly see in there because it's higher than that. The top doors you can see in, but if you don't climb clear up to the top, then you can't see that it's moldy on the backside. It's never moldy by that door that you can get in. Corn's all good corn, so you don't think it got hot or got moldy. But on the backside is where it always gets moldy. And if it gets that thick, they threw it all out this morning. It's all on the ground.
And this is your farm?
No,
Or
not
how
this.
long have you been working, I guess? Can you explain the relationship with you with this farm or the grain bin or?
The bin is on a neighbor's place, and the guy that owns his place wasn't gonna use it last year, so he said we could have it. Now he called me Saturday, we was in Branson, and said that they need it for beans, so he wanted to know if I was gonna empty it, and I told him, yeah, it's contracted for the first of this month. We'll empty it Monday and Tuesday. Now, that's when this happened. So it ain't empty yet, but it's getting there.
And how long have you been a farmer?
50 years. The people that own the bin is about 5 miles away, something like that. They're not using it till this year. This year they're gonna put beans in.
Where do you live then, or where are you from?
I'm from Sresco. I have a farm in Sresco, and this is 35 miles, Cedar Creek, 35 miles away. We farm that also.